I'll say a few words about the allegations against Patel, the Home Secretary, regarding bullying. I won't say too much because it's late and I'm quite tired, but I do think it's an important issue. She's not the first high-profile British politician to have these allegations. I'm thinking of Gordon Brown back in the late 2000s and more recently John Bercow. Um, I am a believer in innocent until proven guilty. So, in that sense, it has to be emphasized these are just allegations. They're not facts, and they may well not be true. But that would insinuate that the people making the allegations are lying or exaggerating, whether it be to settle some score with the Home Secretary or what, I don't know. But that would be the follow up. And then it becomes a case of who do you believe? One thing that is noticeable, LBC has just reported that apparently the Home Secretary's responded with fury that these allegations have been made, and anger stems from the fact that senior civil servants have apparently leaked this to the press. Well, here's the thing, it's not a great way to dissuade bullying claims to respond with fury. Um, because someone who does feel degraded and put down, which is what these claims seem to amount to, that the Home Secretary had actually talked down to people and put them in their place, so to speak, in front of colleagues in a degrading way. If that's if that's true, then they're hardly going to go directly to the very person that's doing this. I mean, if she's their superior, it puts them in a very difficult position. So they may have no choice but to leak in order to bring awareness of this. Um, I don't think bullying is a trivial matter. I mean, when we're talking about the corridors of power, especially a great office of state, I think that civil servants and elected politicians know they need tough skin for that environment. And certainly, I don't think that Westminster's a place for people who would be too sensitive. It is very pressurizing. Um, and you want a tough Home Secretary. You want a Home Secretary that is very clear in his or her expectations of staff. It's one of the most powerful jobs in the land. This is the office that's responsible for um, crime and justice and domestic security, terrorism, immigration. It's a very important department. So, of course, you want a Home Secretary that is a leader as opposed to a pushover. But there are ways to show strong leadership without making people feel small, without making them feel like they cannot come into work. Bullying is a real problem in our society and it crosses every path of life. So it seems to me that the government should be setting an example. Now, Priti Patel has something of a hardline image. Her stance on crime, for example, is well documented. I personally have no problem with that. I want a Home Secretary who's tough on crime. In fact, I would argue that criminals are bullies regarding what they do to victims. So I have no problem with her taking a hard line on crime or terrorism. But when we're talking about internal problems, she's not responding to this in the right way. What she should do, if she feels the allegations are untrue or she's being unfairly smeared, then what she should do is calmly respond. I'm sorry to hear of these claims. I think they're unfair, but I am willing to listen to concerns that people have. She should respond in that sort of vein rather than lashing out, because all that does is actually indicate that the claims might well be true. If that's how she's responding. So it has to be emphasized we don't know the truth. And the same applies to the claims against John Bercow and the claims against Gordon Brown a decade ago. Um, I do think that politics is about power, and whilst I think you can get maybe agendas to try and smear someone's name, I also think that it isn't inconceivable that there are certain ministers who feel that the only way they can make their mark is by pushing people around. Now, Priti Patel, this is conjecture, but she's the first Asian woman Home Secretary, so maybe she feels she needs to prove something. And she doesn't because she's an experienced politician, but it may be that. It may be that she feels she needs to kind of assert her dominance. If that's true, if that's the case, it's wrong. It's not, regardless of who the perpetrator is, it's wrong. Um, Also, criticism of this shouldn't be met by any lazy accusations of racism against the Home Secretary because that would be ridiculous. They're serious claims and they need to be taken seriously. And I think the Home Secretary would do well to respond calmly. I mean, if she genuinely feels that the claims are unfair, then she can kind of go halfway. She doesn't need to say, yes, I'm a bully, but she can say, well, I'm sorry if I've said anything to make people feel this way. I will learn from this and I will listen to the concerns. That to me would be someone who's kind of taken responsibility rather than just lashing out. Um, and by the way, no one should trivialize this. Bullying can can cause a great deal of unhappiness. And even in the corridors of power, just because it's a pressurizing position, I don't think it's an excuse to make people feel that way. Because it's human nature. If people feel valued, they're going to be more productive. If you have civil servants who feel intimidated by their boss, um, it creates an atmosphere where it's obviously toxic. And this can be found in every aspect of society. When we think about bullying, we think about it in schools. There was also a senior military man recently mentioned bullying. I'm not sure. I think it was against John Bercow. And Diane Abbott found herself in hot water saying she found it hard to believe because he was a veteran. Well, that was flippant from Diane Abbott. Anyone can be a victim of bullying. They might look outwardly like a tough person. They may be a military person. They may be 6 foot, a 6 foot guy with muscles, but anyone can be put in a position where they're feeling, just degraded, and that's wrong. No one should be made to feel that way. I think in the corridors of power, tempers can fray sometimes. It is pressurizing. For example, I wouldn't call the Home Secretary a bully because maybe one day she lost her temper. I think it would need to be a pattern of that happening rather than just a one-off. So I don't think that would be evidence enough. Um, but some of the claims being made against her are quite damning. Like she said, "Why is everyone so effing useless?" was one of the claims, and stormed out of a meeting. Now, if that's true, it's very unprofessional. These claims have to be taken seriously. Some might say it's trivial, some might say it's time wasting. I don't think it is, because it's more than just the rights and wrongs of it. It's actually a practical thing. Because if people don't feel valued, they're not going to have the same sort of motivation as if they are. So it's actually about the working structure of the Home Office as well. There's a lot of issues at play here. Um, Talking of bullying, I would really keep an eye on Dominic Cummings because the sort of influence that he's having on number 10, I don't think is healthy. I think it goes well beyond the role of an advisor. I mean, I don't blame Javid for stepping down as Chancellor because the demands being made of him that he sack his own advisors and he work with Cummings' hand-picked advisors. It was basically an unelected civil servant telling the elected Chancellor of the Exchequer what to do. That should be unacceptable. So as each day passes, we see more and more things about the Johnson administration that raises questions. It's starting to look as messy as the Trump administration, although that would take some doing. Anyway, these claims need to be taken seriously.